almost. So I just thought, well, let's just, however long it takes, just fix it and get back to the pits and see if we can carry on.
All right, well, better luck with the rest of the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary from Water. Let's go down now to Steve Evans, who's down in the DAMS Cadillac pit.
The amazingly reliable number 3 DAMS Cadillac is in. Frank Montagna at the wheel. He stays at the wheel. Some minor adjustments to the car. They're hoping that somewhere over the next 7.5 hours that an Audi car makes a mistake and they can get a podium finish.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Steve, because that car is on 249 laps completed, and the number 3 placed Audi is on 256 laps completed. So there's 7 laps there. There's no way they can catch them up, but they can still break down. I remind you that Audi number 8 is leading on 257 laps. Audi number 9 is second, 2 minutes, 2 seconds behind. Now that's, oh, wait a minute, we have another off here. GT3 going off into the litter.
Yeah, I didn't quite see who that one was, but he's obviously going to need pulling out of there. Is it the 75 car? Maybe it is.
I can't see the number from here, but he's well planted in the litter. However, they've got a nice big 4-wheel dozer crane to haul him out. And here is our race leader, number 8, on lap 257. Seems to be just going as smoothly as can be. Dropping down into our nage now. This tight right-hander, we saw that from on board. What a lovely day it is here. Here we have a replay of that GT3 going on. Oh, he's completely and utterly failed to turn right there.
Well, I think he locked it up under the brakes coming into there. I've seen that happen before. And I wonder if that's the Chiro car. Just trying to check that out. These Porsches, many of them are white, and they look quite similar, to be honest. Or perhaps it was the 79. Sorry, we can't tell you that at the moment. What we can tell you, though, is that the second place car, we haven't talked about this in GT, behind the Bob Wallet car. That's one that's driven by 2 Japanese drivers, and one called Atsushi, Atsushi Yogo, actually rolled the car on Thursday, and they straightened it out. It's having an absolutely
82,
great run.
there it is.
Oh, 82,
there it is,
that
yes.
is. Well, that's
lying 24th. That's a different car.
That's the skate car, the
Absolutely.
one with the David Murray car, and I think it's Johnny Molam in it. And
it's gone off as well.
Yeah, I wonder if coming into there's a whole load of marbles.
Could be. Could be.
Or is that at a different place? That's at a totally different place, because the other one was at the top of the hill by the Dunlop Bridge. And Johnny Molam and David Murray have got very similar helmets, actually. But that is Johnny Molam, and on the front of that helmet is the word Goldie. And in Britain, Goldie is a famous rap star who was actually in the latest James Bond film. And he's a sponsor of Johnny Molam.
Well, that's one thing about this job, Andrew. You certainly learned some interesting things. I had no idea who Goldie was. I thought Goldie was Goldie Hawn, of course. I remember Goldie Hawn from way back in the 1960s and 70s. Yes, I would, wouldn't I? Old chap like me. Meanwhile, we've got this Pescarolo. No, it's not. What am I talking about? It's not the Pescarolo car at all, is it?
Oh, yes, it is. That is the Courage, the slightly older Courage, and that continues to go around the circuit there. And having a very good run indeed.
Look at those cars.
Yeah,
they look beautiful.
Classic
the morning
shot.
sun.
Classic shot.
A classic Le Mans shot. The sun, headlights still on to tell everybody they're coming. Here's our leader, car number 8.
Yeah, Frank Bieler is currently lapping in 3:38.1.
Yep.
The fastest lap anyone's done in this race is 3:37, and in fact that was done by Alan McNish. Now they've got 258 laps on the board now. And
Alan McNish has really put his stamp of authority on this race. You know, he's had 6 fastest laps. Stefan Ortelli had 1 fastest lap, and Tom Christensen had 1 fastest lap. But Alan McNish has actually had 6 fastest laps here. That is one very, very determined young man.
Well, the Sky Racing car has been pulled back off the corner. I think that really would only lost about 30 or 40 seconds, and they'll be kicking themselves having come up through the field. And very rare for Johnny to make a mistake like that, but he hasn't driven many of these long-distance races. Of course, he has finished the Daytona 24 hours. Maybe he's getting a little bit tired. I know he's done a lot of the driving.
Yeah, but if you get on the marbles, which I rather think he did. But marbles, by the way, for people who may not understand it, are little bits of stone that get on the racing line. It's from people going off and hot tars dropping stones. These can build up with little bits of rubber on them, and if you get on them, it's just like being on ice. There's very little you can do about it. Unless you're Michael Schumacher.
Oh dear, one of the WRs has blown up.
Looks like a major blow up there. That is steam pouring out of that car. I think it's dropped a valve or something nasty, allowed the water to escape all over the hot engine.
Yeah, that engine is derived from the four-cylinder turbocharged Peugeot engines they used in those rally raid cars, you know, some years ago.
Oh, is that right? Yes, it's a shame because they try so hard, these guys, but that's comprehensively blown up, of course. Car number 35. They're letting off the fire extinguishers there just as a precaution in case it wants to catch fire, Andrew.
258 laps in the book, and the lead now is only 2 minutes here at Le Mans. 2 minutes between the number 8 Audi and the number 9 Audi. Well, the race is certainly on between the Audis, if not the rest of the field, here at the Le Mans 24.
Last year, I tell you, being on top of all these fans and, you know, climbing, even if it was only the third position, it was a very, how to say, I didn't expect to be so touched from this time. So I think being on the top must be a feeling that I would definitely like to try.
And we're back here live at Le Mans, and car number 9, which is in second place, it's only just 2 minutes behind the leading car, number 8, which has completed 259 laps. Into the pits for what we hope is just a routine pit stop. Alan McNish climbs out. Yellow gets in. They're fueling the car. They're poised to change the wheels. You can see the guys with the jackhammers there bent down over those front wheels. If that car goes up in the air on its jacks, then it will have fresh wheels and tires. I rather think it might do, as that was a hard stint, double stint by Alan McNish. So they're changing the front wheels, and they'll probably, oh, wait a minute, they're going for the brake pads as well. Yep, he's got the pinchers in there. That funny-looking tool he's got there prizes the brake pads apart, which pushes the pistons back into the calipers. You can then haul out the worn-out pads, put in nice fresh pads, which you can see there. The used ones are very hot. You don't want to be touching those without your asbestos gloves on, or whatever the asbestos substitute material is these days. They'll then put those brand new pads in. Once he's got the pistons back, he's having a bit of a struggle here. No, he's done it. He's done it. He's got the 2 new pads in. They're now putting a fresh wheel and tyre on. On goes the lock nut. Down he goes. Start the car. No problems. Out he goes. And I think, Guy, you've got Johnny O'Connell for us.
I've got Johnny O'Connell. He has a slightly better attitude this time. Big smile on his face this time, and high fives when he came in.
Yeah, you know, even when you have bad problems with a car, when you get them fixed and fixed well, you're reminded of how fun this place is. And I just had 2 really fun stints. Beat the heck out of my Michelin tires. And boy, would have liked to have stayed out there longer.
You just did 2 stints. You're running 7th right now, but will you get one more chance to get back in the car?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Actually, I did a stint, broke down, then did 2. And I want to get back in. I mean, the racetrack right now is quick, and you know, the number 12 car is working great. I was like telling my engineer, I wish this was the gearbox that we started with, because it's just shifting really well.
All right, that's why they call him the Iron Man, because he's going to do a whole bunch of stints later on. Thanks, Johnny O'Connell. Back up to the booth.
Yeah, and he's such a nice man, Johnny O'Connell. I remember when he first came here, it was the first time I met him, and he was just so enthusiastic about this particular racetrack. Incidentally, it was Stefan Ortelli who was going out in that 2nd place car, the one that Alan McNish has done such good work in. And meanwhile, that's just about, I suppose now, about 3 minutes behind the leading car. So Johnny O'Connell, of course, with a huge history of racing behind him. He was the runner-up in the IMSA GTS
look at this.
Champion. Oh,
look
what's
at
that?
Oh, a big smote of the barrier there.
That's
Car
the Chamberlain
56.
one, isn't it? That's the Chamberlain one.
Yes. Oh, dear. What a shame. He smoked the barrier very hard indeed. He's climbed out. He's having a look. Uh-oh. Oh, something's broken, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just through. Oh, wow. Wow. That was a big one. That was a big one at high speed. I think he was coming down into the Indianapolis bend there. Nothing he could do about it. I would think that's an instant retirement, but the car is blocking the road slightly. This could possibly be a pace car situation. Now, that could alter the whole context of this race. This may well allow the second place car to catch up to the first place car.
Well, yes, I think so. It looks as if the screen's coming. That's the car that's shared by Christian Gleisel, Walter Brunn and Tony Seiler. Well, Walter Brunn, a very famous name years ago in motor racing, who even had briefly his own Formula One team, albeit pretty unsuccessful.
Yeah. But you see, something like that, which is very tragic for them, could have all sorts of consequences at the sharp end of the grid.
Well, drama here at Le Mans. We now are at around 9 o'clock here, and the Audis still lead, of course. The car number 8 is in front with 260 laps on the board at the 24-hour Classic.
And we're back here live at Le Mans. Car number 80 just coming into the pits, and indeed Cadillac number 1. This car's suffering all kinds of problems during the course of this race, but here we are at 9:05 in the morning here, and it's still running. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing for Cadillac. We've got this terrible accident here where fortunately nobody's been hurt, but it's certainly large part destroyed that Viper, and this is a pace car situation. I'm sure they're going to just refuel this Cadillac number 1 here and get it back out there. They may even be able to take advantage of this pace lap situation. But I think Cadillac actually should be very proud of themselves. This is the factory team here. They're still running. They're still here. If they can get to the end of this race and get a finish, they will have acquitted themselves with great honour. And at the end of the day, there's a lot to be said for that, don't you think, Andrew?
Yes, I certainly do. Well, looking at these times, they're still around the 3:37s, aren't they? Well, in fact, the lead car has just done a 3:48, which is, or is it 3:46? The old vision gets a bit blurred at this
That was
time
coming into the pits, though.
Oh, was that the one that
Yeah.
coming into the pits? Yeah.
That's the lap coming into the pit, so it's now got its out lap. We're on board here with the DAMS Cadillac number 3, and I must say this picture isn't too bad. It's, we've been lacking onboard pictures all during the race. We finally got something back. It's still Frank Montagny in the car, and I must say he's in the groove. He's driving it very well. This is a very good example of just how good a Cadillac can be when it's actually set up nicely and it doesn't have problems. They run very well. That North Star engine is very reliable. He's chasing a Panoz. He's just coming out onto the pit straight here. He's come through the Ford chicane. There's the grandstands on the right. We're sitting on the left there up the top of that building. And he's coming up here. We've gone through this lap before. He's gone into the Dunlop curve now.
He's trying to get past one of the Dragon Panozes, isn't he?
Yes, that's exactly right. He'll probably won't get past it until they get down to Turk Rouge, if he's lucky, because those Panoses have got plenty of power. Over the Dunlop hump, coming down into the S's. There's the Ferris wheel on the left. That's where all the fun and games take place at Le Mans, on the left-hand side of our picture. Swings it through the S's, accelerates in 5th gear, up to Turk Rouge. This is a quick bend. You get onto this at some speed. Now, will he catch the Panoz up, or will the Panoz pull out on him? I think it's pulling out on him.
Well, I think I saw off the air, but we also see some of these speeds coming through on other monitors. That Dragon Panoz going past the DAMS machine there.
I didn't see that. I didn't catch that.
Here they are past the Hunaudière. Is that the right pronunciation?
Yes, Les Hunaudières. That's a restaurant on the left there, very, very famous. You can sit in that restaurant and watch these cars
and
go by.
And the windows rattle, don't they? And the food isn't very special these days.
Not only do the windows rattle, but he's caught him up under braking into the chicane there, but now they get back on the straight. Is he going to draw away? The best thing he can do is draft him. In other words, get as close to the back of that car as he can to lessen the air pressure on his own car and get himself a draft along the straight, pull out at the last second, stamp on the brakes and try and get by him. Oh, I think he heard me.
Yeah. And of course that's nice because you've got Ford V8 power there, of course, against the North Star V8 power.
Yes, I have to say that North Star engine's very impressive.
I think it is. Well, they've got, of course, pace cars with that North Star in, and they're very raughty indeed.
Do you know those Cadillac, I think that's called the Seville STS? That's turned out to be a very nice pace car. They look good and they're comfortable. Steve, what have you got for us?
Well, I'm looking at the all-powerful number 8 Audi car. And it appears to be a very routine stop. The driver will stay in. Just a picture of perfection that Joyce has presented us all weekend long. I mean, it's one thing to keep one car in front or two, but 3 of them running nose to tail for virtually, well, 18 hours now is just remarkable, and you have to credit the people behind this car that designed it, that engineer it, that keep it in this position, and also Audi for being able to fund an effort like this. This is not cheap. You're looking at a couple of $1 million for the race car here. They are going to put a brand new set of Michelins on the machine, and all in all, they will. If we do get any kind of a pace car out there, we could have a hell of an Audi fist fight at the very end of this race.
Yeah, this is a triple stint, of course, for Frank Behler, but it shows in some ways how comfortable he is with this car. It can't be too difficult a car to drive, neither can it be too strenuous. But he's all pumped up. He's got the Le Mans vibes. This is what happens once you get through the night. Hey, especially when you're in the lead, you get pumped up. It's like having a nice shot in the arm, or if you prefer, a nice cup of thick black coffee to perk you up. These guys are pumped up. Audis are in the lead. They are on 262 laps. That is car number 8, car number 9, 1 lap behind that, 261, and car number 7 on 260 laps. Andrew.
Yes, certainly. Well, the Audis are still first, second and third. We race through the morning here at Le Mans. Absolutely glorious day. We're going to stay with this until the very end at 4 o'clock here, French time. Who will be the winner?
Which is in third place in the pits. Now they've removed the front of that car, they've got it up on jacks. It's got a small problem, I'm not sure what it is, but this car is lying third. It's actually 1 whole lap behind the lead car and only about half a minute behind car number 2. Steve, are you down there? Can you see what's going on?
Yeah, I can see what's going on. A very time-consuming stop for the number 7 car. Capello got in relief. They're having to change a couple of brake rotors. In fact, it appears to be totally brake-related from my vantage point. I got an awful lot of media down here pushing and shoving, but all in all, they are working on the brakes. Alan.
Steve, I think we can probably see this better than you, and I think they're going to bleed. They are definitely bleeding the brakes, so they've changed the rotors, and I don't know if that's given them a problem, Alan, but that's what they're doing.
Well, what sometimes happens is when you go and push those pistons back to get the pads out, to get the rotors out, if there is bubbles, air in the system, then it can manifest itself. But I think he's had a spongy pedal when he came in. But they've also taken the whole front off the car. Now, they don't normally do that just to change rotors or just to bleed the brakes. Having said that, they only seem to be doing it on one side, because look, they've got the front wheel on the left-hand side, but they're bleeding the brakes on the other side.
They're taking the bodywork off surely to top up the brake master cylinder, the clutch master cylinder, brake master cylinder.
Well, that could well be the case. I don't know. That may be why they took the front off, so they could put some more fluid in. Obviously, if you're going to take fluid out of the brake system, you've got to put it in somewhere. Well,
they've got plenty of time there, 7 laps ahead of the next car. Here's a trivia question. Ronaldo Dindo Capello, nicknamed Dindo. Why?
Why is he nicknamed Dindo? Ooh.
I knew you wouldn't know.
Yeah,
so I asked
right.
you. I asked him this question. When he was a little kid, they lived near to a church. The first words he said was not car or mum or dad. He went dindo, dindo, which said he was echoing the sound of the bells. I thought bells went ding dong, but apparently in Italy they go dindo, dindo, and that's why he's called Dindo Capello. There you are, trivia.
Well, no, that's a very good trivia question, actually. I must say, my eldest son, Alexander, his first word was Rari. All he said was Rari, Rari. He couldn't get the F in the front for at least 2 years, but finally he did. So about his 5th word was Ferrari.
You probably had one at the time. Well, this car is sorted out now. The famous number 7, Jost's favourite number. And just stalled there. You know, we're certainly going now, the V8 motor. And it powers away.
Yeah, that is Jost's favourite number, isn't it? He's always done very, very well on number 7. I used to do really, really well on number 8 here. In fact, number 8 was my lucky number. Barry Sheen's lucky number was 7, if you remember, when he was a motorcyclist.
And Sterling Moss's. And in fact, he's got cufflinks, gold cufflinks he's made especially with 7 with the Continental Cross through them.
Sterling has those?
He certainly does.
Not in the best of taste, I'd say myself. What do you think? However, car number 8 is in the lead. It's on 263 laps. Now, car number 9, that's Audi number 9, it is 2 minutes, 14 seconds. Now, they've dropped 14 seconds. They were only 2 minutes behind the lead car. Now they're 2 minutes, 14 seconds. So there's quite a bit of play going on now between the Audis, but I would say that car number 7 is now out of contention. It's 2 laps down on the leader. I think it's unlikely to be able to catch that up unless it has problems. But we've still got something approaching 6 3/4 hours to go. That's a long time.
We've got 2 complete ALMS races to go, of course, haven't we?
Yes, exactly that.
Just to confirm then that the lead is 2 minutes and 14 seconds between the number 8 Audi and the number 9 Audi. The number 7 Audi, of course, is still in 3rd place despite those problems. We'll be back after these messages. And welcome back to Le Mans. Well, 3 drivers reunited here are Laurent Aiello, Alan McNish and Stefan Ortelli. They all stood on that victory rostrum, of course, some 2 years ago when they were driving for Porsche. They are of a similar stature and they're also very good friends. Let's pick up more on that story.
It worked extremely well at Porsche. I knew Laurent and Stefan beforehand, and so that made the acclimatization at that time extremely easy. And we found it was simple to all join together again.
No doubt about our possibilities to be all good together, and also we've got more experience than 2 years ago, so it should be better for sure.
We all get on very well with Stefan and Alan, also outside motor racing, so I'm very pleased to be back in Le Mans with, together with those 2 drivers.
It was actually a question that Dr. Ulrich asked me back in December when I first spoke to them. And he said, you know, the possibility of this might be there, are you interested? And for me it was quite simple, it was a definite yes. I don't know if it would be the secret ingredient to winning the race a second time or not, but there's one thing we do know, that it works as a formula.
Yes, I wonder if that is a secret ingredient. Is that the secret ingredient? Well, at the moment, Stefan Ortelli is driving the number 9 car, and just like Alan McNish, he is faster than the number 8 car. He's taking about a second a lap, but of course there's 2 minutes and 8 seconds between them, so a lot of seconds still to make up, and whether they can do it, who knows, but it could all be decided under Cadillac on one of those pad changes, or a Porsche spinning in front of them. But we can go down now to Guy in the pits in the Cadillac area.
I'm in the Cadillac area. Eric van der Poel is in the car, and they came in what looked like a routine stop, but then they suddenly discovered something, took the rear deck lid off, and I gestured to Eric van der Poel, is it transmission? And he kind of gave me a nod, and they were rocking the car as you would expect when they try and find gears, and we'll try and find out exactly what the problem is, but they're rocking and rolling it and working on the back end, and Eric not looking very happy at this point. And in fact, at one point they started to take the whole front off as well. Now they've well, maybe they're going to take it up. They are going to take the front end off too. So there's something seriously wrong here at the number 2 Cadillac for Eric van der Poel. And I think any second now you're going to probably see these guys put it up on the jack and whip it into the garage. The jack is actually often, the jack man is off to my left, ready with that jack to put it up on 2 wheels and do that 360 with it.
Yeah, sounds like selection problems to me. They've
front
either got problems with the clutch, or maybe the clutch isn't disengaging. It could be something like that, or it's selection problems.
The front grille, Alan, by the way, the beautiful Cadillac front grille, it's absolutely torn to pieces. There's holes in it, and cuts in it, and of course the filth and the bugs all over it as well.
Well, you think that's like being shot with a shotgun. You know, you're piling along at 190, 200 miles an hour, and you run into some rubbish. It's like being shot with a shotgun. Steve, what have you got for us?
Hello, I just checked in again with Eric van der Poel, and Alan, you are exactly correct. I signalled again, was it the shifter? And he said, no, it's the clutch, it's the clutch. And now here he is, and there you see the team guy telling him to try that clutch. So we'll keep an eye on Eric van der Poel and let you know what happens.
Guy, that's interesting what you said about that grille, because at the Sebring 12 hours I noticed exactly the same thing. The grille was shot to pieces. Now I think we can go down to Steve in the pits.
Well, as you can see, Mr. Pirro, the driver, and Dr. Ulrich, the boss, are in a very heated conversation. I'd like to talk to both of them, but I'm not going to butt in where I maybe am not wanted right now, because one man is doing all the talking, the other is doing all the listening. And I think you can guess which or which. Ah, a smile, a laugh. Maybe it's not as tense as I think it is.
Well, it could be, you know. This could be some official instructions coming here. I would not like to think that Pirro is being asked perhaps to adopt the second position here whilst car number 9 wins it. I mean, that's always possible. He did smile, however. We will be back, though, at this beautiful, sunny Le Mans. And we have such a lovely aerial view here, looking at one of the GT3 Porsches as it comes up the pit straight. We'll be back. Welcome back to a glorious sunny day here at Le Mans. We are live here on Speed Vision, and we're going to stay live for the total duration of the race. We've got a lovely aerial view here of cars doing what they do best at Le Mans, racing. And we're going to go to Steve in the pits. I think he's got a nice story for us.
It's actually about the crowd. 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, when the bands quit playing and the horses quit prancing, there was not an empty seat along this entire front straightaway, and the fans are starting to come out of their caravans and their tents and the holes they dug in the ground and take those seats again. And from what we witnessed last night, I'd say for a whole lot of them, this is about a 6 Excedrin morning. And I think they're all looking forward to a heck of a fight between, even though they're the same mark, between the Audis currently running 1 and 2. But the crowd is back.
Well, that's what normally happens, of course. They all stay up late at night watching the action. They drop wherever they are, or they go home. There are a lot of locals here. Then they come back and they want to see some racing. And look at this. Look at the action here. Look at the colour here. Plenty of healthy cars running. I think there's going to be a lot of cars in at the finish here. Audi, of course, seem to have it looking all their own way at the moment. Lead car number 8 on lap 266. Second car number 9, 1 lap behind. And car number 7 is third, and it is on 264 laps, 2 laps behind the leader. But the Cadillac, car number 3, is still hanging in there very nicely, matching the Audis lap for lap. But of course, the Audis have really dictated the pace of this whole race. This is Jost at his best, letting his cars go quickly, but only quickly enough so that they can win the race without being strained too much. His object here is not to break any records. His object is to win this race for Audi, and I have to say he's looking pretty good. But there's still, as Andrew told us earlier, 2 whole arms races to go virtually, and in that time anything can happen.
Absolutely. What about those emails? We'd like to see some more from all you people over the States logged on. Interesting, we've had quite a few emails from Canada as well. That's great news.
Well, Speed Vision is very popular in Canada, of course. I think most homes get it, and there's a lot of Canadians have been here this weekend. I've seen plenty of them. We've got Canadian representation in the race, and I think if I was going to go and stay somewhere for a while, I'd probably choose Canada because I knew I could get Speed Vision there. Here's the DAMS Lola. Sorry, excuse me, I'm used to saying DAMS Lola. It was DAMS Lola last year. It's DAMS Cadillac this year, car number 3. And I must say, it is going very, very well. This is very encouraging for Cadillac. They now know just how well their cars can go. They may have to hone their own show a little bit, but DAMS has certainly given them a very good example of what you can do with one of these cars when you've got some experience. And that's what Cadillac are getting at this year's Le Mans 24-hour race.
Now, interestingly, all these cars, these prototypes, are all open cars. Last year, of course, the Toyota, which led for so long, was a GT car. Now, the Le Mans regulations still allow you to have a top on the car, but I think everyone's come to the conclusion that this is perhaps a better solution.
I think so, because the closed car may do a quicker lap on a one-off basis, but they're hot and stuffy and somewhat claustrophobic to be in. If you ask the average race car driver what he prefers, these guys are all large part formula drivers. They like open cars. They can get whatever fresh air's going. And also, you've got much better vision. In the old days, before you had the chicanes, a closed car was perhaps more of a necessity because you had to get some monumental speed up down the straight in order to do a decent lap time. But with today's modern aerodynamics, these open cars are hardly slower than the closed cars, and there's a lot less to go wrong. Certainly, you don't have things like windscreens popping out. We saw on that Viper that went into the guardrail there, it just completely broke up, and the windscreen popped out, and it's not much fun looking through one of those windscreens when, in fact, it's raining, as we know. So I think open cars is the
That's the answer. Well, the leading car is now completed 267 laps, and second, of course, is the number 9 car, and then the 7 car, followed by the Cadillac. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Le Mans. Well, I am joined here by Peter Stevens. Let's just check out the top 5 positions. Audi, Cadillac, and then the Courage, and then, of course, there's a couple of Panozes, and then the group of Vipers. Well, with me, one of the world's most respected automobile stylists, and also a man who's been working here on the BMW we saw racing. This is Peter Stevens. Now, Peter, I think I'm correct. when Audi first went into this project, you were involved, yes?
What happened very early on, yes, was that Audi wanted a feasibility study, and it was convenient for someone who was involved in racing to do a bit of feasibility study for them. That was quite separate from the design of the car. The design of last year's and this year's weren't anything to do with me, but I gathered the information beforehand about what this kind of racing entails, really.
And you love this sort of racing. Of course, we've seen you in the past helping David Price, of course.
Yeah, it's actually the 21st year that I've been here. Considering the very first year I came, I told myself I wouldn't, and I even wrote myself a note to be open at Easter to say, don't go back to Le Mans. And I obviously ignored the note completely, and have done so for 21 years.
Now, you've got quite a mixed life, but one of your other roles is it right you're a professor of engineering and you train people to be automobile engineers? Have I got that right?
I'm a visiting professor actually at the Royal College of Art, and they're in fact automobile designers. Yeah, so that's helping to train future designers, but I still work as a consultant designer, amongst other things, for ProDrive on the World Rally cars, the Subarus, and I was involved last year with BMW on what I call the white bits of the car, which in fact won. The black bits being the magical stuff underneath that we left to the Williams people. But I also updated their 98 car for privateer Thomas Boucher, and I've been helping to run that this year.
How important, Peter, is aerodynamics in these cars? Obviously, we know that Formula One teams spend enormous amount of time in wind tunnels, and I believe Audi haven't actually used one of the famous wind tunnels.
Yeah, I think they have a pet wind tunnel somewhere in Switzerland or something like that, but I'm sure that it's one that they're so familiar with, because what you do need to do is use the same wind tunnel, so when you go back, you can compare your previous results and previous experiences with your latest modifications. Aerodynamics is crucial here. It used to be that it was crucial for the lowest possible drag, because when there weren't any chicanes on the straight, you needed to go jolly fast, and that became the prime objective. Now that you've got the chicanes where the braking's very crucial, and principally with the Porsche curves, you need a car which handles spectacularly well and has a lot of downforce through those Porsche curves.
Now, Audi have got this absolutely, we're actually on board here, and you can probably tell us what some of these switches do if you can see them. You probably haven't been involved in this particular car. But
no, this is the DAMS Cadillac, but what you can see he's been doing is disconnecting his drinks bottle, disconnecting the radio, loosening the seat belts. With one thumb he's depressing this pit lane speed limiter as well. He might be changing the mapping, as they call it, of the engine. I don't know whether they do that.
He can do that. In fact, Guy Hobbs is down there at that pit stop.
Down at the Cadillac pit stop, and we are having a driver change. Just trying to figure out exactly who's getting in, who's getting out there. Otherwise, it's a routine stop. Fuel going in. They are going to put a whole new set of Pirellis on as soon as that fuel is in. And my view is being blocked here. I'm trying to get a read on the helmet.
Montagny is getting out, and I think it's Eric Bernard getting in. But Bernard and Collard have actually got very, very similar helmets, so it makes it a bit tricky.
It does make it a bit tricky, you're right. And I think it is Bernard getting in. And now the tyres are starting to go on. The fronts first in this case. As I mentioned earlier, some of these guys, some of the systems, they do one side first, or they'll do the rears first. In this case, the DAMS team choose to do the fronts first.
Now it's actually Collard in the car. I've got Calvin Fish here who's joined us. I'm going to be signing off in a minute. And I'd just like to thank Peter for coming up here, Peter Stevens. But just first, how are you reading this race now? Audi, of course, have dominated it. Can they be beaten?
I don't think they can be beaten. It's possible, of course, that, you know, something silly will happen and they'll slide off or someone will slide into them.
We think of Toyota last year where they're in a similar position.
Well, exactly right, yes, and that absolutely can happen. It's extraordinary. During the last half hour of the race, you can have every kind of drama. I wouldn't begin to guess, for a start, which of those three Audis. I have a suspicion Reinhold Jost would like number 7 to win, but it's obviously, at the moment, not in a position to do so, being 3 laps back, because he's won 4 times with the number 7 on his car.
Peter Stevens, thanks very much for joining us up here. You'll probably be going back to your pit. That BMW has had a torrid time, actually.
No, since we're out, I'll be going back to the motorhome and having a bit of decent lunch in a wee bit, actually.
Yeah, I know you like your lunch.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Well, this motor race continues here. The Audis, of course, first, second, third, as they've been for much of the race. Then it's Cadillac, then it's the Courage, the number 16 car. that is doing well, the Peugeot engine machine. And then we've got the first of the Japanese Panozes, and then the number 12 Panoz, of course, the Mario Andretti car. All those problems they had slipped right off the list. The other Panoz from Japan is in 22nd, sorry, is number 22, is in 14th place here. And Calvin Fish, you've joined us up. Guess you had a nice, comfortable sleep in your hotel bed, did you?
Yes, I did, Andrew. I had a couple of hours, which was very nice, and nice to be back on the air and watching that Panoz go around the track. I believe it's Magnussen in the car right now. We saw a replay of an off there a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if that was during this stint or not, or a replay from earlier in the race, but certainly they'll be pushing hard. In fact, is that... no, that looks like Rafanel. Yeah, Rafanel in the 12 car. And he really pushes hard. I mean, I saw some very slow-mo replays of him pushing around the racetrack yesterday, and boy, oh boy, he really gives it one on the entry to the corners. And they'll be pushing hard. They're a few laps behind now, but they'll be trying to make a good impression in the last few laps of the race.
Well, Calvin Fish with me, Danny Sullivan as with me, and so is Greg Kramer. I'm going to sign off now and leave you with the news that the Audis are first, second, third, but just look at that incident. Whoosh, off it goes here at Le Mans. More of that to come.
Welcome back, everybody, to a beautiful day here at Le Mans. I'm Greg Kramer. Joining me in the booth now will be Danny Sullivan, Calvin Fish as well. The beautiful view from the Goodyear blimp of the front straight, and of course the Bugatti circuit, one of the WR Peugeot entries making a run. But you know what? We've talked about this before. There is so much more to this event than just the race, which is glorious in its own right. But somehow, Steve Evans always seems to find the fun little things to do.
I bet the water in that makeshift shower was a lot hotter than it was in my hotel room here in Le Mans this morning. I, Steve Evans, am the only Le Mans version of all the announcers on this staff. I've followed the race all my life, my first chance to actually be here. And what blows me away is all the accommodations in the Loire Valley, from expensive chateaus to little one-star hotels. But 200 of the 250,000 fans do it just like this. They do it in the dirt, from RVs to tents, and more tents than big buck RVs. But nobody is doing it any better than my friends from England here. You saw the shower, got all the cooking apparatus. They got a tent they must have bought at the MASH auction. Got to come over here. Hey, a man's got to shave, you know. Cleanliness is godliness. And I'm telling you, and they've got food like you wouldn't believe. In fact, they just finished breakfast. They plan to eat a lot heartier tomorrow. Let me ask you guys, you having a good time?
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, it's very good. Lovely weather. Super food and 4-star accommodation. What more could you want?
What's on the menu for today?
Well, we had full English breakfast this morning: sausage, bacon, fried bread, eggs, beans, tomatoes. We've got some lunch lined up, and then tonight it's the chicken curry with all the trimmings tonight.
I may just stop by. And if you're somebody that has to have the morning paper every day, no problem. Audi Racing puts this out every day in 4 different languages, and it's not just racing. You can also get the ball scores. What more could you want?
The fans here in Europe are absolutely rabid about motorsports, and it is so great to see. And you know, I mean, it may appear to some that this is not a terribly close race, but Danny, you were just pointing out that second Audi, the number 9 car, is less than a lap adrift of the leader right now.
Right, he's just a little over 2 minutes away. All we have to see is one little incident, a slow pit stop or something. He's back in it, a yellow. Yeah. One of the Panoz is number 12, is just 2 laps behind the number 23 Panoz. The Courage is right there. The Vipers are right together. Everything's still happening, and there's so much racing still to come. We've still got a little over, what, 6.5 hours, 7 hours yet to go, and find it amazing. And you know, when I saw Steve out there, that guy had the same thing for breakfast yesterday.
That's because it's good. It's good.
Yeah, that's what
British cooking has taken leaps and bounds.
Yeah, the English tan going as well. Did you notice that?
Yeah, ankles and forearms, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you look at the GTS battle, though, Danny, I mean, you got 5 cars within 5 laps at this stage of the race. 3 Vipers, 2 Vets. That's still going to be a great battle.
It is, and as we've seen throughout this entire race, which is always the case in 24 hours, as you know, Cal, one little incident, a cut tire, a little off, which we've seen a couple just recently right there at Indianapolis. It doesn't take much, and you get stuck in the gravel, they got to get you out, you lose 2 or 3 minutes, boom, next thing you know, the guy's right in it, now you're starting to push.
Exactly, depending on where you hit the problem. You just pass the pit in, you get around there, you get a flat tire, you run off the road. It can take you 5 minutes just to get the car back, then they have to effect the repair, so you can easily lose a couple of laps. So this thing is far from over right now.
Good look there at the third place Audi, the number 7 entry. Christian Knapp, Michele Alboreto, and Ronaldo Capello, the 3 drivers. And yeah, at various stages in this race, if you're just joining us, that is Ronaldo Capello on board. Every one of these cars has suffered something. One, it may have been something as minor as a cut tire, which is exactly what we were talking about, a long limp back to the pits. They drop back, and oh, we've got a big development. The 4th place DAMS Cadillac is in the garage, Guy.
Yeah, it just came in. It just made a regular pit stop a few moments ago and just came flying down the pit lane and just drove straight into the garage area and then immediately gone to the back end of the car. And again, is it going to be transmission or clutch-related problems? These Cadillacs seem to be having a problem there, and they just brought this one straight into the garage area. We'll try and get in and get a word as soon as the original emotions and panic are over with.
Hey, Guy, one of the things now, this brings up something interesting. If they've got a problem that's not too bad, the Courage, which is in 5th place, he's a good 8 laps behind. So they got a bit of a cushion if it's not a big terminal problem. But I don't think that the DAMS folks are as qualified and prepared as we've seen with Audi with sticking a new rear end on the back of the car.
And I think also, Danny, when they brought this car in on the last pit stop, they were kind of all looking around and then looking at the Panoz and everything. And I think at this point, these guys had resigned to the fact that they were going to win best in class, because Audi, obviously, in its own class at this point, and they were looking for that, and they were being more concerned about defending that 4th place overall position. So now this is going to get them really frantic down here.
Well, this does not look like it's a problem with the transmission or the suspension. They're spending a lot of time in the engine compartment. So what we'll do is we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll find out exactly what the problems are with the DAMS Cadillac that up until now has had an exceptionally smooth and trouble-free run. That's what they're going for here at Le Mans.